if there are two or more people, let's say three or more people together, there is a culture. The question is, did it happen to you, or did you
Yeah.
create it and curate it? Right? You may not hire the right person every time, but you need to know when to let them go. And the way I like to see culture statements done, and we'll put a link maybe in your show
Yeah.
notes where people can get examples. But again, they need to not be freaking platitudes. They need to be who you are. But you would list some, and one of them I like to see in there is profitable is one of our culture standards. Well, you write the word profit in there and you might get some grumbling and grousing, but below that, you put some bullet points like profit is mandatory to grow. Can't, what are the benefits of profit? Integrity. Okay. That's a terrible platitude. I generally hate that word. I mean, I like what it is, but it's so well used. But what does integrity mean? Some little bullet points in your culture statement. Integrity means that I do what I say I will by the time I said I will. And if I can't, I inform people immediately. I never speak ill of other people, ever. Anyway, I don't
You can
participate in
define that,
gossip.
right?
There are a whole lot of
Yeah.
things. Yeah. And and if you have 4 or 5 major culture values, culture is a group of values that when you have team meetings or you're talking with a team, you can bring somebody up. Hey, here was a great example of integrity that Ron did last week, and then give an example. And this is why it showed integrity. Integrity doesn't just mean honesty. Integrity, the actual word, also means structural soundness, right?
Yeah.
That's integrity of an airplane and things like that. So you have an opportunity with these culture items on occasion to discuss them and let people self-define them, right? So finding there's many values that people have as there are people, but fleshing out the ones that mean the most to you, and again, requires a little thought.
Yeah.
People live by their values, and there are ways to define them or help people discover them. But people a lot of times have a hard time saying, well, what are your values? What are your principal values?
Well, so it's funny. So I like when you said integrity is a crappy word, right? So in another life, when I worked directly with brands, I traveled around and I did all over the world, did trade show marketing seminars. And when we got to the part about designing with purpose, I would call the word integrity what we would call some of the design words. It's what we call a slippery word. So when people said, well, if you were designing your exhibit, what do you want it to look like? We go, well, I want something that looks very successful. I want something that's conservative because we're a conservative company, or we want something that's a real stopper. Well, what does that mean? If you ask 20 people in a room, you'd get 20 different definitions. If you say integrity to 10 people, you could get 10 different. And so really the way you got to clarify and communicate what that really means, right? Or either clarify it or eliminate it, because it's dangerous, right? To put that kind of a slippery word.
Yeah, in the marketing world, I call them invisible words: quality, integrity, value.
Yeah,
because they're used so much. I mean, integrity is a magnificent word. It's not a crappy word. It just is the way it's used as kind of I can't think of anything in detail, so I'm going to throw out integrity. It's finding the detail is where the opportunity is for people to self-define.
Absolutely.
And you guide them, but they're self-defining, and they're going to be a lot more buy-in if they define what integrity means.
So
if you just put it on a post.
When I talk with managers in our organization about culture, there's a word we've been adding. I don't know that it's brand new, but it's, and I'm hearing it more in the market, and that's putting the word intentional in front of the word culture. Because as you said, you're going to get one whether you want it or not, right? And so we used to talk about a big part of the listenership of Experience Builder show here comes from the EDPA, which is the Experiential Designer and Producers Association. A lot of builders, a lot of service contractors, a lot of suppliers to the industry. And so we talk about we talk a lot about an experience, the customer experience through project management, and communication has a lot to do with that. And so I used to talk to a lot of my labor business leader friends, and I'd say, well, what kind of, one of them said, well, I&D is not experiential. I said, oh, yes, it is. And they said, what do you mean? I said, I'm showing up at 8:00 on a Thursday at Chicago's McCormick Place to get started. I'm going to have an experience during that move-in one way or the other. It's either going to happen to me, or you as the labor provider can have some influence over creating that better experience for that white collar executive. And maybe it's new. I think the term is new collar, right? The new collar executive
Right.
that is used to managing things and getting things done and being in control of things. And there they are in a hustle and muscle work environment where things are out of their control. Are you going to do anything to make that experience a little less intimidating or a little better for them? So anyway, I think culture is a lot like that experience. What I want people to want to come to work in the morning. I want them to enjoy that. KHALIL always talks to me about, I think we've got to figure out how to make sure the work is meaningful to them, right? This has to be something they're proud to do. You have to help them have some perspective of how this helps other people's lives. We help the world trade. What we do is very, very noble. So KHALIL, I see you want to jump in. Talk to me, man.
Man, I think something that is really hard when we're talking about the 9 essentials for people is that we start with, whenever you say 9 essentials and you're about to go through a checklist and people are like, okay, I can get started on this, the essentials for my business to an organized business. And then you start right away with vision, mission, culture.
I know.
And those are so hard. And, even in this episode, if you think about the length of it, we're spending so much time on these 3 in comparison to what we'll spend on the rest, because the others are just a lot more practical and easier to understand. Checklists or how-tos, right?
Right.
But I think that it's critical that when you start with your business and getting it organized, that you start with these things, because it should guide every decision. It should guide every action in your business going forward. And when you know your vision and you're talking about making your work meaningful for employees, it's so much easier to make it meaningful. And you can tie every action back to the vision. Hey, the reason why we're doing this, guys, is because we're trying to delight every single customer, right? Or whatever your value is, your mission is. And if you can incorporate these things into every other aspect of your company, meaningfulness will not be difficult. And right now, in an unorganized business, meaningfulness is really even challenging at times. And having clarity, what we even talk about this on our podcast, Martin CFC, but the most common reason why an employee will leave a company is for unclear expectations. It's not
58%.
What is it?
58%.
58%.
According to Christine's section.
Unclear expectations. And I would imagine a lot of the reason why those expectations are unclear is because the vision is unclear, because the mission is unclear, because we don't know what our values are and how we should be acting each and every day. And it's amazing how when you know what the vision is and what the mission is, if there's a task that you're unsure about, you can default back to the vision. And if it falls, and you can make your decisions based upon that vision. And obviously we want to be providing clear expectations in our company, but we're just not going to be perfect at all times. And if we have clearly communicated what our vision and mission are, then people are going to know exactly what they're going after and what the task should default to. So
I'm writing down that 58%, Martin. I'm a walk softly and carry big statistics guy. And by the way, I should remind you that 68.7% of all statistics are made up on the spot. So, but not that,
I heard
but
it was
not that one,
68.5.
but not that one that you just shared. So, no, I appreciate it. So, and as we talk about that, KHALIL, so many people leaving because of poor expectations, which again, this is sort of closing out culture. Is there any business leaders or owners that you gentlemen talk to that you're coaching that wouldn't agree that right now, building the business, whether it's the economy or you're recovering from pandemic, it's lumpy and uneven. And still the greatest disruption for us is talent acquisition, and culture's got to be the one thing that I can influence in my company to make sure my people are happy and staying and not leaving. And 2, and I actually have some proof in the last 6 months, we've been able to attract some people because they're leaving places where they feel burnout or underappreciated or overwhelmed or unclear, and we're offering a different way of doing things. And would you, but is that a universal thing you guys are seeing?
Culture is, actually, you might have said it the other way around, but Peter Drucker said culture eats process for lunch. Now, he might have actually said it the other way around. I going, oh my gosh, because I vehemently remember it, because I go, here's what I say: culture eats process for lunch. If you have a great culture, people can copy your process. They can come in and steal your notes and copy and do everything you do, and they ain't you.
Yeah. Amen.